I used to think that professionalism could shield you from humiliation. That morning started like any other. I woke at 5:30, ran 3 miles before the sun even warmed the street, showered, dressed, cream blouse, gray slacks, navy blazer, no frills, no loose ends, the usual me. By 7:45, I was reviewing my presentation in the company lounge. It wasn't even the biggest client I'd ever handled, but it was the cleanest win we'd had in 3 quarters, $12 million on the table. My slides were concise. I'd already rehearsed them in my head enough to memorize every transition. At 8:05, I walked into the boardroom. The air in that room wasn't tense. It was tight, like it had already picked sides. A few nods, shallow, performative. Most of them avoided eye contact. Thatcher Goss sat with his arms spread wide, occupying space like he'd bought the damn table. He didn't nod, just stared through me, like I'd wandered into the wrong room. The clients arrived. Introductions, polite handshakes, smiles with a little too much upper gum. I should have walked away the moment Thatcher misspoke. He claimed there were no exclusivity clauses in the pending draft, but I'd reviewed that clause. I'd written it, page 9, subsection B. I politely interjected. Actually, there is an exclusivity clause, page 9. I can clarify it for everyone now. The silence that followed wasn't professional. It was warning. Thatcher laughed. Sharp, loud. Everyone's heads turned. He stood, walked toward me, not around the table, over it. His voice didn't rise, it snapped. Don't correct me in front of clients, he said. That's your only warning. And then it happened. He grabbed my hair, yanked it so hard my neck snapped back. For a second, the ceiling blurred into the lights. I didn't move. Couldn't. My scalp burned. Something warm dripped along the curve of my ear. No one moved. The HR rep, Melissa, stood up and walked out like she forgot something. One of the junior partners looked down at his lap. The clients, they were frozen. I saw their jaws set, saw them pretend not to see. I straightened up. No tears. No reaction. Just fixed my blazer and walked out of the room. If this were someone else, if my name were different, would they have said something? In the restroom, I stared at my reflection. A small streak of blood on my white collar, red on pale fabric. My scalp throbbed with every heartbeat. I touched it lightly, wet, tender. They saw. They heard. But no one moved. When I returned to my office, my monitor had a single notification blinking on screen. HR request. Report to Dorian Goss's office, immediately. Of course, I didn't even sit down, just walked the long hallway toward a man who'd built a reputation on appearing calm when setting fires. Dorian didn't greet me, he didn't ask how I was. Just gestured to the seat across from his. I'll keep this brief, he said. We've received some concerning feedback about your behavior this morning. I didn't respond. I didn't blink. I understand tensions were high, he continued. We don't want this to escalate unnecessarily, so... He pushed a manila folder toward me. We're offering 3-month severance, full benefits, and a standard NDA. You'll leave today. I opened the folder. Standard HR language. Mutual agreement. Brand integrity. Non-disparagement. No mention of assault. No mention of Thatcher. Just me. The liability. I pressed record on my phone, still tucked inside my jacket pocket. Then I signed it, because I knew exactly what to do with silence now. I packed up quietly. My personal files were already copied. My backup drive was tucked into the side pocket of my purse. The cleaning lady, Lupe, handed me a tissue when I passed her. Didn't ask what happened, just nodded, eyes wet. The receptionist didn't say goodbye. Didn't even meet my eyes. I walked into the elevator. Pressed L. That ride down felt longer than my entire tenure at that firm. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and stared at my hands, blood on my collar, my mug still in my bag, chipped on the side, a joke gift from the intern class. I stay late so others don't have to. I used to wear that like a badge. Now, maybe I stayed too long for people who never planned to keep me. I made it home just before the rain came, pulled into the garage, let the engine idle for a moment longer than needed. I didn't want to go inside yet. That elevator ride down had already stripped me of whatever self-worth hadn't been yanked out of my scalp. When I finally stepped into the apartment, it felt quieter than usual. Not peaceful. Empty. I tossed my bag on the floor, sat on the edge of the couch, and opened my laptop. That's when I saw the subject line. Change in representation. It was forwarded by one of my oldest clients. Attached was the official announcement from Goss HQ, signed by Dorian himself. Clinical, painless. No mention of the meeting, no reference to what happened. Just words like emotional instability and professional disruption. As if I'd lost my mind and not my scalp. I read it once, then again, then again. They didn't even lie creatively, just efficiently. The file name? Client Transition Notice, L. Creed. Like I was a defective printer part being rotated out. Not a single thank you, not even a best of luck. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just stared at the screen until it blurred. Then my phone buzzed. Family group chat. Creed family. 63 unread messages. Scrolling up, I saw Dorian had posted about an upcoming fundraiser. Pictures of the venue, hashtags, logistics, who was bringing what. My brother was hosting a gala a few blocks from the same office where I was told to pack up and vanish. No one mentioned me. Not one message. I started typing. I won't be attending. Then deleted it. A few lines down, my sister shared a meme. Don't bring family drama to the boardroom. It's called professionalism. The timestamp was minutes after my name disappeared from the firm's website. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I thought about replying. Something sharp. But I knew how this family worked. We didn't confront. We repositioned. We didn't defend. We distanced. My phone vibrated again. A private message from my mother. Don't make this bigger than it needs to be. Not, are you okay? Not, what happened? Just an instruction. Just management. I stared at that one sentence and realized it was the thesis of my upbringing. We don't air dirty laundry. We fold it and hide it in the attic. Suddenly, I felt heavier than I had at the boardroom table. At least Thatcher had the decency to attack me to my face. I got up, walked to the kitchen, poured water, drank half, and dumped the rest. Then I sat down again. There was no scandal, no shouting match, no public meltdown. Just deletion. And in that deletion, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. Being talked about is better than being erased. Even gossip would have meant I was still real to them. This was erasure. Not loud, not cruel, just consistent, just clean. Flashback. My father's retirement dinner years ago. I wrote his entire farewell speech. Dorian delivered it. They all clapped. For him, I never got a thank you. Back in the present, a new notification popped up. My work email had been deactivated. No warning, just gone. I clicked refresh on my inbox again and again, like some part of me believed it was a mistake. It wasn't. That's the thing about erasure. It doesn't happen in fire. It happens in silence, in clean inboxes, in group chats that keep going without you. I stood, walked to my bookshelf, pulled out the dusty folder with my original case studies, handwritten deal notes, annotated contracts, the work nobody saw, the stuff that made things happen but never made it into press releases. It was the only proof I'd ever been there. No plaque, no name on the wall, just this folder, and one mug, the same chipped coffee mug from the office, still tucked in my bag, somehow not broken. It read, I stay late so others don't have to. It used to be a joke. Now, it felt like a gravestone. I took it out, placed it on my desk, and looked at it the way one might look at a photo of someone who's gone. Then I pulled out a new journal, the leather one Naomi had gifted me years ago, still unused. On the first page, I wrote, I can survive being humiliated. I won't survive being forgotten. I closed the book, opened my personal laptop, and began copying over my client contact list into a clean, private spreadsheet. 2 days after the fundraiser, I got an automated notification from a client portal I hadn't even thought about. My access was revoked. No explanation, no heads up, just gone. I tried calling Michael Yates, someone I'd worked with for almost 4 years. Straight to voicemail. Then came the email. From his assistant, formal, chilly, said they'd prefer to route all communications through the official firm channels. That was it. Not a thank you. Not a hope you're well. Just clean, polite dismissal. I stared at the screen, blinking slow, thinking about how many weekends I'd spent pulling their deals back from the edge. I wasn't just a name in their contact list. Apparently, I wasn't even that now. I reached for my water bottle and knocked it over by accident. It rolled off the edge of the table and clattered onto the hardwood. Lid still sealed, but I felt like I'd spilled something anyway, something I wasn't getting back. Late that afternoon, I drove back to the Goss building, told myself I was only there to pick up one thing, a copy of my client acquisition manual. The original draft, my handwriting in the margins, was still in my bottom drawer, probably buried beneath old onboarding packets and vendor guides. I parked 3 blocks away, walked the rest, entered through the back. Security didn't recognize me at first, then called over a junior employee to walk me upstairs. No eye contact, no small talk, just awkward silence all the way to the 3rd floor. My old cubicle was still there, mostly untouched, but my nameplate was gone. When I asked the intern, he shrugged. "Probably tossed with the old documentation," he said. "We just cleaned up last week." I nodded like it didn't sting. I opened the drawer. There it was, my coffee mug, the chipped one. Only now it had a full crack running down the side, like someone had dropped it, then put it back like nothing happened. You don't have to set fire to erase someone. Sometimes you just clean them away. I was about to leave when something caught my eye. A training packet on the desk, brand new, glossy cover. Client Retention Framework by Mallory Trask. I picked it up. Same structure, same tables, same slides, same mistakes. There was a line on page 3 where the client segmentation grid mislabeled mid-tier partners as affiliates. I'd made that typo once, back in version 2.1. A mistake I corrected months ago, except this was the exact version I'd created. Not a copy, not reimagined, just retitled. I stared at Mallory's name on the cover in bold font, her photo smiling like she built the thing from scratch. I didn't scream, didn't curse. I just took a photo with my phone and placed the packet back exactly where it was. They didn't even rewrite it. They just resaved it with a new author. On the way out, I passed the employee wall of distinction. All the usual faces were there. Senior partners, marketing leads, a few interns who'd landed impressive media hits. I'd brought in 41 clients. My face had never made it to the wall. Inside the elevator, I stood next to a guy from accounting, someone I'd shared countless lunches with. He glanced at me once, then buried his face in his phone like I was a ghost he didn't want to acknowledge. The doors closed. We rode in silence. Once outside, I turned around and looked at the building. It was never mine. I just kept it standing. Back at home, I dropped my keys in the bowl, kicked off my shoes, and walked straight to my desk. My laptop was already open. The folder I'd started building was still on the screen. Legacy Systems, Original Author. I opened a blank spreadsheet, started typing, client names, notes, preferences, red flags, deal timelines, renewal risks, from memory. They'd erased me in ink. Now I'd rewrite myself in silence. The email came while I was brushing my teeth. Subject line, Meet the New Faces of Innovation. It was forwarded by a vendor I used to work with, someone who probably thought they were doing me a favor. I tapped the link. Top of the company page, a smiling portrait of Mallory Trask. The caption beneath read, Lead Client Strategist, Creator of Goss's Signature Retention Framework. That was my title. My work. My words. Scrolling down, I saw the bullet points, metrics I had used in my last 3 client presentations, word for word. Not even the punctuation changed. And then the quote, Precision builds trust. They'd kept that too. Except now it was in quotes beneath Mallory's face, attributed to her. I didn't scream, didn't slam my phone, just took a screenshot. Then another, opened a new folder on my personal drive and labeled it, Rebranded Lies, Exhibit A. I sat in the kitchen for a while, phone resting on the countertop, eyes staring through the wall. They didn't just replace me, they hijacked my history. Around noon, I got another message, this time from a former colleague. Hey, thought you might want to see this, it read. Attached was a flyer. Client Success Appreciation Gala. The header was in gold. The subhead said, Celebrating a Year of Excellence. The event? Same hotel I had chosen for our summit the year before. The design? Same layout, same color scheme, same font I picked for our client materials. But this time, it was credited to Mallory. I kept reading. The list of attendees was all my old clients, every last one of them. Some I hadn't heard from in months. Others I'd built from scratch. My name? Not mentioned. Not even once. Near the bottom, I spotted Naomi Bledsoe's name. My stomach dropped. Not because I was surprised, but because the game was so clear now, it was insulting. They weren't hiding it. They didn't need to. If I showed up, I'd be that bitter ex. The uninvited ghost with something to prove. If I didn't show up, they'd write me out like I'd never mattered. I didn't know which was worse. Later that evening, I opened the digital version of the gala poster and zoomed in. Mallory's photo was front and center, in the same position where mine had been in last year's internal draft. I checked the file metadata, same file name, Laz Creed Client Wall 2022, Draft 1. They hadn't even bothered to rename it. I looked closer and spotted the alignment error on the footer, an old design flaw I'd made. I knew it like a scar on the inside of my wrist. Same file, same content, different face. I printed both versions, slipped them into a folder. Exhibit B. Even ghosts leave footprints. And I was done being quiet. I thought about sending a message to Naomi. Not angry, not confrontational, just honest. I typed, "Wishing you a meaningful evening at the gala. If anything seems familiar, trust your instincts." Read it twice, then saved it as a draft. Wasn't time yet. I wasn't ready to burn the house down. But I had started lining the matches up in a row. Before I went to bed, I created a new Google Drive folder. Named it, Truth, Do Not Touch. I filled it with screenshots, email chains, recorded calls, all time-stamped, all dated, no opinions, just facts. The last thing I did was record a silent screen capture of me scrolling through the new team bio page. No audio, no commentary, just a quiet show of theft in motion. Sometimes, silence is the most dangerous scream. The rain had been steady for hours, tapping like questions I didn't want to answer. I sat on the couch with my legs curled under me, holding the same chipped mug I'd used to carry confidence. It was cold now. So was I. A vibration shook the phone beside me. A message from my father. "Ba thinks you should apologize. This is not how family handles things." I stared at the screen. Read it once. Again. Then again. My thumb hovered over the reply button. Then I flipped the phone over, face down, like the words would erase if I just looked away long enough. This was the same man who once sat me down at 11 years old and told me, "If anyone ever lays a hand on you, you tell me. I don't care who they are." And now, he was telling me to apologize. Not for what I'd done, but for what I wouldn't keep silent about. I sat back against the couch and let the weight of that contradiction crush whatever was left of the pedestal I'd put him on. Then I deleted the entire thread, not out of anger, out of surrender. When someone you've trusted your whole life asks you to betray yourself to keep everyone else comfortable, that's not family, that's management. I sat in that silence until the next sound broke it. My phone rang again. Verla. Midnight call. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "Hello?" Her voice was flat, not angry, not worried, just formal. "You're turning this into something it didn't have to be." I waited. "You're embarrassing your brothers." A beat passed. I could have let it go, but I didn't. "You mean I'm embarrassing you?" She didn't deny it, didn't defend it, just went quiet. And then, as if reading from a script she wrote in her head weeks ago, she said, "We all want what's best for you, but you have to stop fighting everything." I didn't yell, didn't explain, didn't ask her to understand, because I knew she didn't call to listen. She called to reinforce the same message they all did. Fall in line, be quiet, don't make us uncomfortable. She hung up after that. No good night, no, "Are you okay?" Not even a sigh, just a click. I sat there, staring at nothing. No music, no light, just the sound of rain and the faint echo of things not said. I opened my laptop, job postings, recruiters, application portals. I scrolled through page after page of opportunities that all felt like going backward. Nothing I hadn't done, nothing I wanted. I thought about deleting the folder. All of it. The client logs, the documentation, even the screenshots. I opened my email and drafted a message. "Please disregard any previous communication from me. I no longer wish to pursue this." But I didn't send it. I stared at the blinking cursor for too long, then hit delete. Quitting feels tempting when you've already been erased by the people who said they'd never forget you. The only voice that pulled me back from that cliff was Naomi's. I replayed her last voicemail. It was short, direct, like always. "Let me know if I can do anything." I believe in what you built. That phrase, not what I tried, not what I worked on, what I built. I walked to the dining table, opened my laptop, and stared at the folder labeled Legacy Systems, Original Author. Then I changed its name. Creed Infrastructure, for when they come looking. It felt right. Not dramatic, not brave, just accurate. Before bed, I set a timer for 1 hour, 60 minutes. If I still wanted to quit after, I'd do it. I didn't. I spent that hour reorganizing files, adding context, annotating every client note with cross-references and links. Not for them, for me. Every file I saved was a decision not to disappear. Naomi picked the place, not me. A quiet cafe near Town Lake, far from the corporate zip codes and glass towers. The kind of spot where you could speak freely without running into someone you regretted ever trusting. She was already there when I walked in. No makeup, hair pulled back, reading something on her tablet, but not really reading it. I sat down. She looked up. No hug. Just a nod. We talked about small things first. Her son was applying to Rice. Her board was rotating 2 new members. She asked if I'd been sleeping. I said enough, which was a lie. She didn't press. Then she set her cup down and looked me square in the eye. I know they used your materials, she said. Flat. Without hesitation. I didn't blink. Didn't flinch. She leaned forward. If they make one more mistake, I'll need someone who can clean it up right. It wasn't an invitation. It was a warning and a test. I nodded. No promises. No pledges. Just the kind of silence that means, I hear you. I'm listening. I'm not done yet. By the time I walked out, I didn't feel hopeful, but I felt clear. Later that afternoon, I got an anonymous Dropbox link. No subject, no sender name, just a file titled Staff Training, April. Curious, I opened it. Audio only. It was Mallory. The previous strategy lead was great at spreadsheets, she said, followed by a forced chuckle. But we're about building relationships now. Laughter in the room, the sound of mugs clinking, a few snorts. I played it once. Then again. Then again. Each time my grip on the mouse got tighter. She didn't mention me by name, but it was clear. They were rewriting history out loud now. Let them keep talking. Talking is how people like her give themselves away. I saved the file in a folder labeled Reputation Management, Truth 5, Spin. Then I opened a fresh document, started taking notes. Mallory's communication style, her patterns. Who she mimicked, which clients she name-dropped too often, who she tried to charm, and who she avoided. By the time the sun set, I had a working profile. I wasn't building a case. I was building a map. And you don't win a war with fire. You win it with coordinates. I pulled up my client insights spreadsheet and started tagging red flags. Which clients preferred deep work over glossy updates? Which ones hated being talked down to? Who had already begun distancing themselves after my departure? No direct outreach, just preparing for when the cracks showed. Because they would. They always do. The next morning, I wrote one line to an old client who hadn't spoken to me since the announcement. Hope your team's transition has been smooth. Let me know if you ever need context. I didn't expect a reply. It came in 4 minutes. Thank God you reached out. We're lost. I didn't grin. I didn't even sit up straighter. Just typed. Let's grab coffee next week. No obligations. Just clarity. This wasn't poaching. It was remembering who I was before they made me forget. That evening, I cleared my dining table, pushed everything to the floor except my laptop, a fresh yellow legal pad, and a corkboard I'd just had delivered. I ordered a second monitor, labeled folders with names, timelines, friction points. The mug sat in the corner of the table. Still chipped, still there. I didn't come back to scream. I came back to reclaim what was mine. I didn't expect to wake up to it, not the file, not the voice, not that moment. The subject line said, from a friend. No body text, no signature. Just a download link. I hesitated for 3 seconds. Clicked. It was an audio file, a recording, rough background noise but clear enough. I tapped play. Yeah, I yanked her. She needed to be put in her place. Thatcher's voice. His laugh followed, deep and self-satisfied. A few chuckles behind him. Voices I recognized but couldn't name. Senior staff. Men who'd once called me indispensable. People who'd eaten food I ordered, signed contracts I negotiated. He said it like it was a bar story, like it didn't leave blood on my collar. I didn't move, didn't blink, played it again, then again. The fourth time, I smiled, just a little, just enough. They didn't know I was still in the game. Now I had the ace. By noon, the video was already making the rounds. Not from me. Someone had recorded Naomi Bledsoe's statement during Goss's quarterly review. I didn't even know she was going to say anything, but she did. Clean. Unflinching. She stood up in a full boardroom of executives, eyes locked on Dorian. "Until you address the real reason Mrs. Creed is no longer here," she said, "this partnership is on pause." No shouting, no preamble, just truth. The room went still. Thatcher's face turned purple. Dorian looked at the floor like it had betrayed him. I watched the clip from my laptop, volume low, but my heart pounding louder than I wanted to admit. She didn't defend me because I asked her to. She did it because I earned it. And now the cracks were visible. Within 24 hours, 2 more clients reached out. Cautious, testing the waters. "We're reconsidering our legal representation," one said. I didn't promise anything, didn't offer them glossy plans or quick fixes. I listened, took notes, clarified timelines. Told them, if they needed support, I'd be available for a conversation. Nothing more, nothing less. By nightfall, my home office looked like a tactical station. 2 corkboards now. Labeled pins, client notes, color-coded tags for reach out, watch closely, vulnerable to loss. This wasn't revenge. It was realignment. Each time a client reached out, I didn't see a target. I saw someone who remembered, and that mattered more than anything Goss could spin on a PowerPoint. Reputation isn't built by what you say. It's built by who still believes in you when you say nothing. I didn't release the audio of Thatcher, not yet, but I had it transcribed, time-stamped, notarized. I filed it under release only if provoked. And then I tucked a USB copy into an old hardcover my father once gave me, Leadership and Legacy. A book he probably never read. Taped it to the inside back cover. Quiet, secure, untouchable. I didn't need to yell. I just needed to wait for the right ear to ask. That night, Naomi sent me an email. Simple. "You've done more by staying quiet than most people do with a microphone." I read it twice before replying. Sometimes silence is the only sound that gets heard. I leaned back in my chair, looked at the corkboard. Names, pins, lines drawn between who I'd helped and who had helped bury me. And I whispered, "Let's see who forgets me next." I started the morning with cold coffee and an old hard drive. 2 hours into reviewing old backups, I found it, hidden inside a folder named Archive Temp, buried beneath legal templates no one touched anymore. A metadata trail, a contract template, mine, showed my name as the last editor. Then, 3 days before I was fired, Mallory's name replaced mine. The document had been backdated, but the revision history didn't lie. It was like someone had stolen your house, replaced the name on the deed, and pretended you never existed. They didn't just steal. They timestamped the theft like it was a normal Tuesday. I printed both versions, one with my name, one with hers. Highlighted the swap date, circled the fake timestamp. I filed it all under Exhibit C, Pre-Firing Fabrication. People who think no one is watching always forget about digital fingerprints. By mid-morning, another leak hit my inbox. An internal partner brief, sent to investors, listed me as assistant coordinator, not even former, just assistant. The memo hit fast and loud. Internally, externally. Some exec at Goss must have thought it was clever, reframing me as someone who brought coffee and stapled printouts. I didn't clap back on social, didn't post some pointed quote or snide reply. I just forwarded it to Naomi and 2 other senior clients. Subject, "They keep making it easier." Naomi responded within minutes. "If this is your leadership," she wrote to Goss HQ, "we're reviewing representation immediately." I didn't ask her to do that, didn't expect it, but the company scrambled, tried to walk it back with a clarification memo, PR speak stacked on PR speak. Damage was done. They thought shrinking me would make me disappear. It did the opposite. That afternoon, I showed up to an off-site arbitration review. Clean blazer, flat shoes, 1 binder. Inside that binder, every piece of evidence in order. Printouts, Audio transcripts, metadata, client emails, timestamped, labeled, clean. The room was small. 6 people, neutral walls, 1 clock. Thatcher sat stiffly, his jaw twitching every few seconds. Mallory avoided eye contact altogether. Dorian looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't dramatize. I just laid out the facts, page by page, timeline by timeline. When it was over, Dorian cleared his throat and said, "This appears to be a procedural misalignment." I closed the binder. You could hear the snap. "You can call it misalignment," I said. "I call it malpractice." Outside the room, a few junior staff were waiting. They nodded. Not out of sympathy, out of recognition. Later that evening, I saw the blog post. Anonymous, but clearly from inside. The memo, the contract swap, all of it, laid out. The comments came fast. "This happened to my wife. My sister built her department and got cut the same way. Why do they always erase the ones who actually built the place?" I didn't share the post. Didn't need to. Truth has a way of making its own noise once you stop trying to scream over it. You don't need to shout when the truth starts echoing in other people's mouths. Back at my apartment, I pulled out the hardcover book my father gave me years ago, Leadership and Legacy. He never read it, just liked the title. Inside the back cover, taped to the inside flap, was the USB drive. I plugged it in, copied every file, every screenshot, recording, timeline, to a fresh drive labeled Final Defense, only if destroyed. Then I put it back in the book. I wasn't here to burn it down, but I wasn't about to let them rebuild anything on the ashes of my silence. The first notification came at 9:12 a.m. I was midway through updating client notes when it buzzed onto my screen. "Janelle H. has left the company. Final note attached." Then another. "Carlos R. has resigned. Farewell email sent." 3 more followed, one after the other, all before noon. 5 names. All from Goss. All people I'd trained, coached, fought for in budget meetings. Each of them had copied me in their exit notes. One said, "We're leaving, not because of her, but because of how they treated her." I read that line twice. Then again, I didn't reply, didn't forward it, just sat with it. And I realized something. Loyalty doesn't scream. It moves quietly. But when it moves with weight. I filed the emails under a folder labeled The Ones Who Remembered. At 4:47 p.m., a new message came in. Subject line, "Let's talk." From the one client I thought I'd lost for good. The $40 million account. The partnership I built from ground up, 3 years of groundwork, strategy, problem solving. Their email was short. "You know us better than anyone." I didn't respond right away. I opened my spreadsheet instead. Searched the name. Last contact, 127 days ago. Then I typed, "Monday morning, coffee's on me." I didn't need them to beg. I just needed them to remember who built the bridge they walked on. The next morning, I walked into a neutral meeting room downtown. A conference center, no brand colors, no office politics, just me, a folder, and one sharp pen. The Goss legal rep was already there, suit pressed, expression preloaded with condescension. They slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside, a quiet settlement, non-disparagement clause, 5-figure payout. Silence hung between us like bad perfume. I flipped through the folder, read every line, then closed it. "If I were you," I said, "I'd save that money. You're going to need it for the people coming after me." No raised voice. No threat. Just truth. I stood, pushed the folder back, and walked out without looking back. When you stop fearing what you'll lose, you become the thing they fear. That night, I rinsed my chipped coffee mug, the one I carried out of the office on the day they erased my name. I dried it, set it gently on a clean white shelf in the corner of my study. Not as a symbol of bitterness, but as proof. Not everything that cracks is meant to be discarded. Some things just prove they've endured. At 8:02 p.m., I joined a video call. On the screen was a young woman, nervous, quiet, but sharp in the eyes. She was being pushed out of her department the same way I had been. Her voice cracked just once when she said, "They told me I was difficult, that I didn't fit the culture." I smiled, not because it was funny, but because I recognized the script. I said, "You're not crazy. You're just inconvenient to people who don't want to be accountable." She let out a breath she'd been holding for days. I didn't say more. I didn't need to. They tried to erase me. Now, they'll have to remember me every time someone refuses to disappear.